Oh, we're on. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, everyone. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, at the nth hour, Donald Trump has come out there and he's talking about, he's floating the idea. And look, let me be quite clear. NATO is over anyway. The United States, Donald Trump is threatening to pull out of NATO over Greenland. I'm going to be exploring that shortly. I'm going to tell you guys what I think, what it means, and where I think we're going, and where I think that leaves everybody. Also, I just want to throw back some tropes. So when we started these channels, I used to talk about these diversions where the United Kingdom would lead in Europe against the Russians, and the United States would go into the Middle East. This was before Greenland. This was before Venezuela. This was before all these other articles that, let me jump up and get it. Before all these other things that happened. Now, when I give you guys this long formatted forecast of events, I don't sit here with like some magic crystal ball, because I don't have one. I have like an 8-ball, and I'm not going to lie, guys, it's not that accurate. Right, is NATO over? Is NATO over? Yes, literally. Can you guys see that? I don't know if you guys can see that. Can you see it? Yeah. The 8-ball has spoken. NATO is over. What I do is I give you guys the probabilities, and I say, oh, let me put the chart on. That's what I say. I say, listen, these are the likely things that are to happen. Now, earlier on this last year, on the 4th of January, I predicted that there was going to be a mass incident. I said to you guys, I said, listen, there is going to be a mass incident at the first day of the Oasis concert in Cardiff. Now, the reason I said that was because I understand how these things work. I understood how radicalization works. I understood how people are looking for these groups. People are wanting to give a statement. And the 4th of July came and went and nothing happened, right? And good. You know what, actually, guys? Good. However, this was an article from the news today. And for you guys on TikTok, you can't see. Well, you guys can read that there. Now, this was, there was a planned attack on the very same day that I said it would happen. Now, the reason I'm sharing this with you, it's not, it's not to say I've got a crystal ball, because I don't. The reason I'm saying this is because when I give you guys these predictions, it's because that is the most likely event. That is the most likely outcome, the way we're going right now. So when I've done previous live streams and I've talked about things like civil war in the United Kingdom, when I've talked about a United States takeover of the United Kingdom, when I've talked about a global conflict on an industrial scale, when I talk about World War III and World War IV happening simultaneously, it's because I genuinely see it, all right? And those of you guys who've been with me for a while, as we keep moving forwards and things happen and we keep moving forwards together and growing the community, you'll understand that it's not difficult to predict these things that are going to happen. You just have to look at the problems that we have and look at them with with an objective set of eyes. Anyway, listen, I've waffled far too long, so let me get into my opening monologue. So before we get into my opening monologue as well, afterwards, that didn't even make sense. After my opening monologue, I'm going to share you a video of the Prime Minister of of Canada talking about the New World Order. I'm also going to share to you guys an article that the ECHR, so British troops deployed in Ukraine, will still have to act under the ECHR. So they will still come under the ECHR. So they will still have to show potentially, human rights and all the rest of the jargon to the enemy. Now, does that sound normal to you guys? I know it doesn't to me. Right. Let me just start. I guess I'll just start with this. So this was, you know, before I start, I'll share this article so everybody knows what I'm going from. So this is the article this is the article I read. Is it that one? Yeah, that one. So we're looking at Donald Trump. You know, he's come out recently and he said that he is going to potentially leave NATO if, you know, he doesn't get his way with Greenland. So let me just continue. Let me just start. So this is not a fringe theory or wild speculation anymore. This is straight from the president's mouth, like a couple of hours ago or whatever it was. Donald Trump has made it quite clear that the United States is going to take control of Greenland, full stop. You know, he's literally, you know, he's not mincing his words. He's saying, yeah, we're gonna take control of Greenland one way or another. We are having Greenland. That baby's mine. He says they need it for national security. That is, and anything less is unacceptable. And he's not backing down. He's talked about doing it the easy way by buying it, or doing it the hard way if necessary. And now, today, you know, literally just today, he's upped the ante by threatening to slap on tariffs on any country that doesn't go along with Greenland. And like earlier on in the last couple of, in fact, my phone's there. In the last couple of minutes, you know, there's talk about the United States leaving NATO if over Greenland. So think about what that really means. Greenland isn't just some remote island. And somebody gave the analogy of the Falklands and said, "Oh, but what about the Falklands? The Falklands are part of Argentina because they're closer." And I'm like, no, that's actually a perfect example. Britain is absolutely fortifying. You know, the Falkland Islands are an absolute fortress. They have been fortified by the British. Now, if Britain had like a post office and 2 people. Oh, April Lee on TikTok is saying he said he wants Antarctica too. Right. April Lee, can you share a link to that? Because I've not seen that. But if Donald Trump says he wants Antarctica too, that would fit perfectly in line with what I've been saying all along. All right. To take Antarctica, you need to take Britain, which is very easy. Because Britain controls the Falkland Islands. You know, whoever controls the Falkland Islands controls Antarctica. So if Trump wants, Antarctica, the easiest way for him to do it is to take control of Britain. I know that doesn't make sense, but trust me, it does. So Greenland isn't some remote island. It's a self-governing territory under Denmark, a core NATO ally with a tiny military. They've got a tiny military, really small military. Denmark have clearly said no repeatedly. Greenland's leaders have said no. A bipartisan group of American lawmakers is over there right now trying to calm things down and listen to the locals. But Trump isn't listening. He's doubling down, warning he'll punish nations like our European allies with economic pain if he doesn't get his way. I'm just going to keep looking on here for April Lee's comments. I do want to find a link of where Donald Trump has allegedly said it's on a right. Okay. April Lee says, right, okay. I'll try and find, if it's on the mainstream, I can talk about it because I don't want to get the video banned for fake news. And I'm not saying like YouTube videos are fake news because I give you guys a lot of information before it hits the mainstream. If I start reporting on it and saying it's not speculation or analysis and opinion, you know, then it will get taken. So this is about more than just real estate. This is all minerals or Arctic strategy. If the United States actually moves to annex Greenland by force, coercion, or relentless pressure, it would shatter the fundamental trust at the heart of NATO. I'm going to throw in Article 5 because everybody understands that Article 5 is some sort of like magic pin. I don't think it is, but whatever, you know. We're going to talking about collective defense would now be shattered. The idea that an attack on one member state is an attack on all, that only works if, you know, if allies believe no one in the alliance would turn on each other, right? So when everybody talks about NATO Article 5 and, you know, it's NATO Article 5 and they wouldn't do that, they can't do that because reasons. What if NATO states turn on each other? How do you invoke Article 5 then? Do you say like, what is it like? What's that X-Men movie? Not the X-Men. Go on. Somebody, not Transformers. It's got Captain America. Avengers. Is it Avengers Civil War? I think it is. Avengers Civil War, where they're all fighting amongst each other. That's literally where we're going. So the collective defense would be over. You know, it would make NATO look like a hollow shell where the strongest members can just grab what they want from others. Many experts, diplomats, and even voices within NATO themselves are already warning that the United States takeover of Greenland could spell an effective end to the alliance. Europe would be left exposed, trust destroyed, the whole transatlantic security network in ruins. Trump shrugs it off. He's even said things like NATO would be stronger with Greenland in American hands. But the reality is stark. Push this through and you don't just lose an island, you lose NATO is over. If this happens, you lose NATO. And look, guys, I'll be quite clear. I don't think NATO's worth the paper it's written on anyway. But I do think this would make it official. We are at an absolute tipping point, and I'll tell you why, if you live in the United Kingdom, why this is important to you. So we're at an absolute tipping point right now. We've got tariffs. Who knows what's coming today? We've got people talking about Trump pulling out of NATO, isolation for America, and chaos for our allies. Now, when people say that America would isolate themselves, isolation only works if that country doesn't have anything to give. For example, we tried to isolate Russia, right? They just sold their oil to India. We tried to isolate them by sanctioning them. They just cozied more up to China. Oh, thank you, April Lee, for the roses. If you're a big country, right? If you're a superpower, you can't get isolated because people will always want what you're selling. And that's the reality. So the crux of this live stream, ladies and gentlemen, we're touching on the fact that I think NATO's over. If Trump takes Greenland, there is no way that NATO can continue. It just can't. It's over. I've said this is coming a long time. I don't think it's worth the paper it's written on anyway. But anyway, let's jump onto the chat, ladies and gentlemen. Let's jump onto the chat and get some comments. How is everyone? Oh, Lisa Jane is saying GP News. Oh, hang on. It's another day, isn't it? It's literally another day and another headline like this. All the time, it's like one headline after the other, you know. It's always the same nationalities, right? It's literally always the same nationalities. Googleinos is saying primary schools on lockdown after armed police swoop on town centre amid standoff with a man on a roof. Hang on, let me jump up. X82 is saying NATO are going to leave themselves open when the US leaves. Absolutely. Will make it tough for Britain to have a special relationship. There are no special relationships. Do you know what they are? They are. That's the wrong. That's the wrong word to use. There are no allies. There are no permanent allies. There's no such thing as permanent allies and permanent enemies. You know, there isn't. There's no such thing. Absolutely no such thing as permanent allies and permanent enemies. And I think that's a good thing. For example, right? For example, you know, if, and I'm not saying this is the case, let's just say that if, totally hypothetical now, for entertainment purposes, what I'm saying is a totally wild conspiracy and it's clearly never going to happen, right? If Britain was to become an Islamic state, you know, an Islamic totalitarian state of Great Britain. Let's just go wildly out there and say that Britain is now an Islamic totalitarian state. Does that mean that the United States are still our best friends and our best allies? Would that mean that the United States would come to our aid if something happened? You know, so there's no such thing as permanent allies. And, you know, on the flip side of that coin as well, there's no such thing as permanent enemies either. I mean, we get on fine with the Germans now, right? Don't we? Right, I'm going to jump to the bottom because there's quite a lot of comments. Slim Yin is saying, as of early 2026, the population of Greenland is approximately 55,000, according to the Worldometer latest database. Okay, I don't know what. I don't know what that. Okay. I thought it was 49,000, but okay, whatever. And Googlidos is saying outrage as non-Brits make up 80% of offenders behind one crime. Yeah, I spoke on this yesterday. This is the crime that they're talking about is it's theft on the railways. So we talked about this yesterday. Theft on the railways. 80% of people who are arrested for theft on railway trains and stuff, they are non-British nationals, so people who do not come from this country. So go figure that. Templar Matt is saying UK needs to start pumping oil out of the northeast near Antarctica. Out of the northeast and near Antarctica. Oh, right, okay. And get it sold and get that money in our military and our social care. Listen, if the United States take Antarctica via the United Kingdom, they will definitely be pumping that oil. They will be taking that oil. Look, why do we leave the oil in the ground? What is the purpose of leaving that oil in the ground? Why do we leave it why do we leave that oil in the ground? Right, I've got a couple of other things to get on to, ladies and gentlemen, but the crux of this live stream is we are talking about the end of NATO right now. Hang on, give me a second. Sorry, I just need to pull something up. Oh, reconnect. Good. Sorry. Right, that's not working, is it? Right, I'm just trying to find a message here. Give me a second. Right, I've got it here. I think it's this one. Is it this one? It won't open. Right, open. All right, there we are. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to get an article up to share with you, but it's not working. Let me try and cut and paste it in here. There we are. Got it. 4 hours ago. Right, I will share this with you. I'll try and share it quick because I'll try and share it quick so the ads don't jump up. So here's what we're talking about. Donald Trump hints US could pull out of NATO over Greenland as he doubles down on blistering puts boots on the ground. So let me close that before the ads come. Donald Trump has warned the US may pull out of NATO if America's allies don't agree to its acquisition of Greenland. We're at a rock and a hard place, ladies and gentlemen. NATO without the United States is nothing. They don't have anything. They literally have nothing. And that's the reality. We've emasculated ourselves for years. We've put money into, woke agendas. We've put money into diversifying the military. We're at a stage now where people do what they want with us. So, will you pull out of NATO if it doesn't help you acquire Greenland? A reporter asked the president outside the White House today on Friday. Trump warned, we're going to see NATO has been dealing with us on Greenland. We need Greenland for national security very badly. If we don't have it, a very big hole in terms of national security, especially in terms of the Golden Dome. We need that golden dome, right? We love that golden dome. The golden dome is a proposed the Golden Dome is a proposed multi-layer missile defense system, which the president says is reliant on seizing control of Greenland. Now, you know how here in the United Kingdom, right, we're changing the law to make it. We're changing the law to make it so that if you're a veteran and you are 65 and under, you can get pulled back into the military. You only do that, right, if you understand where you're heading, because it's not a popular thing, right? It's not popular to tell people, oh, what, you're 55 this year? Ah, well, under our new laws, we need you for another 10 years. So these things are not popular. So you only do these things that are not popular if the outcome is inevitable. And the outcome in this context is a global conflict on an industrial scale. And what I'm seeing right now is countries structuring themselves to deal with the threat that is coming. And I don't see how NATO can carry on after this, guys. I really don't. And again, it's probably not worth the paper it's written on anyway. Googleinos has just sent a super, and he's saying alleged ISIS member granted indefinite leave to remain in the UK. What's that blonde girl? Can you guys remember that blonde girl like 2 days ago they wouldn't let come to the United Kingdom? Let me Google this let me Google this. Okay, breaking news, everyone, from 21 minutes ago. We've got some breaking news from 21 minutes ago. Of course, Googleinos is right on the money again. So let me share this with you. This is what I'm going to read. Alleged ISIS member granted indefinite leave to remain in the United Kingdom. I'll turn it off, right. So Abdullah Youssef is accused of belonging to the banned organization Islamic State and possessing information likely to be used. Sorry, and accused of. Sorry, right. Let me read this again, okay? I'll read the words instead of pretending I know what it says. Abdullah Youssef is accused of belonging to the banned organization Islamic State and of possessing information likely to be useful to someone preparing or committing an act of terrorism. It's the same old tropes, isn't it? It's the same old tropes. When these people look, and I'm just hypothetically, right, for entertainment purposes. These people who come over on the boats, how do you know what's in their head? Like, how do you know that they don't know how to build one of those drones from scratch? How do you know that they don't know how to use everyday household items and make kaboomas? Like, how do you know they don't know this stuff? You don't, right? That's a straight answer. So this is breaking news, guys, from 20 minutes ago or something. Alleged ISIS member granted indefinite leave to remain in the United Kingdom. A man accused of being a member of the United States Islamic State who arrived in the United Kingdom illegally as a teenager has been granted indefinite leave to remain. A court was told. Abdul Youssef, now 23, faces multiple terrorism charges after his arrest on the 16th of December 2025. Yusuf from Bletchley in Milton Keynes appeared at the Old Bailey on Friday via video link from Wormwood Scrubs. He is accused of belonging to the banned organisation Islamic State and of possessing information likely to be useful to someone preparing to commit an act of terrorism. Specifically, a document entitled Homemade Explosive Belts. He also faces 4 counts of disseminating publications. One of these relates to a video showing the September 11th attack on the Twin Towers in New York City, marking the 24th anniversary of this assault that claimed nearly 3,000 lives. It is fascinating, right? If you live in the United Kingdom, it is fascinating because there's that blonde girl. I can't remember what her name is. Is it Eva? Von Gara, whatever her name is. She was denied entry into the United Kingdom. She's got no criminal record. You know, she's got no affiliates to any terrorist groups or anything. She is just, she's just opposed. She's just opposed to wokery. And she was banned from joining and she was banned from coming into the United Kingdom. Look, and I when we're talking about, we can't. There's a lot of these terrorists we can't get out of the country because of their human rights, right? Now, I just want to throw this out there. Today there was an article in the yesterday actually in the Telegraph. I'll just read you the headline: ECHR to undermine British troops in Ukraine. Any peacekeepers will be bound by Human Rights Convention, MOD confirms, even though Russians will not. How bad is this going to get, ladies and gentlemen? So, hypothetically, for entertainment purposes, let's just say, right, that let's just say, for a total hypothetical scenario, right, let's just say World War III breaks out in Ukraine, British troops, granddads, over 55s are all deployed forwards, right? And they're told, go and win that war, but make sure you apply the human rights laws. And you're like, dude, like people are running at me with landmines. What do you want me to do? I want you to show them respect, dignity. You're like, dude, you ain't got time for that. Ah, well, I can see you're going to, in 50 years, we're going to take you to court. Maybe that's what. Maybe that's why the government, right, are employing all the 65-year-olds. Listen, maybe it's got more genius than I thought. Maybe there is a genius in this, right? Think about it. When these human rights charges come to the veterans in 40 years' time, how many of them are going to reach 105? They're all going to be dilly swizzled by that time. So maybe it's maybe that's why they're doing it. I don't know. But you've also got to understand that the Russians are not part of any European Court of Human Rights. And the thing about warfare, the real simple thing about warfare is whoever escalates their violence to 10 quickest normally wins. Whoever goes darker quicker, they're usually on the winning side. So if the Russians are allowed to do what they want and go real dark, and like we're sending our granddads over there, I don't think that looks good. I'm just jumping down, guys. I'm just jumping down. Theodore is saying Europeans need to go back to the pagan ways, the old ways. I don't know. Are we going to all paint ourselves blue? Are we all going to paint ourselves blue? I don't know what that means. Right. Holly is saying the UN will do nothing. We pay the bills. I think you mean NATO. Holly, I think you need NATO. So, but yeah, the UN will do nothing as well. And Holly is American. So, yes, I agree. And look, Holly, I've said quite a long time. I've said for quite a long time that I don't think American soldiers should be deployed to Europe. I think the Europeans need to pull our big boy pants on and deal with what's happening. Googleinos is saying NATO allies to deploy troops to Greenland in just hours as Trump makes fresh step. Look, There's going to be no fighting. There's going to be no fighting between American troops and NATO troops. Absolutely zero. It's so ridiculous. You know, it's so ridiculous. What's going to happen is this. This is exactly what's going to happen, right? There's going to be a lot of political posturing. There's going to be a lot of to and fro. There's going to be a lot of diplomatic meetings. And eventually, the United States will take it. One way or another, they will take it. But they're not going to. They don't need to take it by force. They're not going to take it by force. It's absolutely preposterous to think that the United States are going to take Greenland by force. It's just not going to happen. They don't need to, and it's better that they don't. Right? You know, it's better that they don't. And look, let's not forget that Greenland is part of North America anyway. Bronxy Breeze is saying Trump's tightening the US purses, threats all sorts to make Europe pay its share MAGA. I don't know what that means. Trump's tightening the US purses, threaten all sorts to make Europe pay its share. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. If you can elaborate a little bit more. Right, listen, I've got another video to share with you guys. So, you know how we all think that we've all heard these conspiracies, right? And they're wild conspiracies. They're wild conspiracies about some sort of new world order. And we're all going to be living in 15-minute cities, eating bugs. We'll own nothing and we'll all be happy. We've all heard that, right? And it's wild conspiracy. It's absolute wild conspiracy. Well, it turns out it might not be that wild after all. So listen to this. So I'm going to play, you know what? You might not know who he is. So I'm going to share with you guys a video in a second. And this is a video from a guy called Mark Carney. He used to be I think like the chief of the Bank of England or something. He was like, I don't know what, he was in charge of the Bank of England, basically. He's now the Prime Minister of Canada. So he said something very peculiar earlier. Let's see what he's saying.
Progress that we have made.
Sorry.
I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order.
He knew exactly what he was saying. He knew exactly what he was saying, guys. He knew exactly what he was saying. Let's listen to what? New world order? What do we mean? Listen to how he says it. He knows right now, he knows 100% that the eyes of the world's press are on him. He knows that.
I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order.
It's absolutely coming. The new world order is absolutely coming. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know what it's going to be. I can speculate that the Russians are going to beat I can speculate that the Russians are going to drive through Europe. They're going to end up on the English coast. They're not going to be able to get over the English Channel. I can speculate that the United States is going to take over the United Kingdom by doing so the Falklands and Antarctica. We can speculate that there's going to be an Oceania and Eurasia two global states that are a constant, perpetual state of war with each other. I can speculate that. I don't know. Blow Bubbles is saying the manual is 1984. Yeah, George Orwell's 1984, and that's where we are. And one of the things one of the tropes in George Orwell's 1984 is this right. Listen, you guys on TikTok, I'm going to be closing you guys down in like 3 minutes or something. I think, yeah, maybe, yeah, 3 minutes. 3 minutes up, if I remember. I'm going to close you guys down on TikTok in 3 minutes. I will continue this live stream over on YouTube. The Real Raven. I might have to take a call. I'm going to jump. What did I say? I'm not going to jump on a call. I'm going to close you guys down on TikTok. I'm then going to continue this live stream over on YouTube. I'm the Real Raven One on YouTube. I'm the Real Raven One on X. If you want to go show your support, if you want to continue the live stream, that's absolutely fine. You are most welcome, but I will be closing you guys down on TikTok very soon. Right. Blow Bubbles is saying the manual is George Orwell's 1984. Now, one of the tropes in George Orwell's 1984 is this two mega states, and they are at a constant state of war with each other. And in that state of war, what happens is both sides, their military-industrial complexes, they are just creating stuff for the war. And that stuff that they're creating doesn't really benefit anyone. It just brings down society. What do I mean by that? You know, so when you see these, when you see like government ministers and stuff saying, "Oh, we're upping production, we're bringing jobs and prosperity to this region," you're not. It's a false economy. What happens is when you pretend this, what is it? I think it's an 8 mil. No, it's a 10 mil. Pretend this 10 mil socket is an artillery shell, right? An artillery round. It's like $500 or whatever. You can pay a lot more. You can pay a little bit less. $500 for an artillery 105 howitzer round or whatever. 120 millimeter more. It doesn't really matter. This bomb has a value, right? $500, whatever. Now, that value is destroyed with this bomb. So the time, effort, money, labor, manpower, resources that went into this bomb, it just blows up. It's gone. It's finished. You don't actually get anything, right? Now, the thing about weapons, you don't just get 500 pounds worth of damage. You get the stuff that's blown up as well. So it's just destructive. So people are putting their labor, they're putting their time, money, effort, resources into building these things, these bombs. And what they actually do is set back humanity because they don't make anybody's life better. What if that time, money, effort, and resources was put into providing new farming, infrastructure, cheap transport? That's the sort of stuff that would drive humanity forwards into broad sunlit uplands. But when George Orwell wrote his book 1984, I think he saw this coming because naturally the big powers will consume the small powers, right? Literally, you're seeing Donald Trump now. He literally just took Greenland. Venezuela. He literally just took. I stole that shit. You know, he took it. He took Greenland. Venezuela, sorry. He's also talking, he's also thinking about, I think he's going to take Greenland as well. So now you're seeing this, and the Russians are probably going to, sweep through Europe. So you're seeing these bigger countries consume the smaller countries. And inevitably, you're going to get left with two, right? You're going to get left with two rats. Now, those two rats, those two superpowers, they are never going to want to, they're never going to want to have a full-scale war with each other. Why? What they're going to want to do is keep everybody in a state of fear, so everybody's producing stuff for the war, and it keeps going boom, it keeps going kaboom, and it's total control, it's total fear. It's literally, the stuff out of 1984. Right, listen, you guys on TikTok, I am going to close you guys down now. I will be I'll continue this live stream over on YouTube. I'm the Real Raven One over there, and I hope to see some of you over there. And if not, I'll be back on tomorrow morning at 10. Right, let me close those down. Right, I think I may have to have a call. I think a call's coming through in a second. Hang on. Right. Hang on. Sorry, I may have to take a call in a second. Hang on. Right. If my phone starts ringing, look, guys, if my phone starts ringing, I'm gonna have to close you guys down real quick. It's no disrespect, but I can't miss this call. It's quite important. It's a group chat thing. So let's see if we can get this. Let's see if we can get this party. Let's see if we can get this party finished. Right. Let me jump down. Oh, who said something about Gopniks? Who said something about Gopniks? Let me look up. Somebody said something about Gopniks in the chat. Does everybody know what a Gopnik is? Who put Gopnik? I'm sure somebody put Gopnik in the chat. I just scrolled down it then. I think I missed it. Anyway. Oh, there we are. Look. Gopniks and Chavs will be made a collaboration. So for those of you guys who don't know, Gopniks is it's basically the Russian Chavs. They are Russian, Belarusian, and Ukrainian Chavs. They wear Adidas clothes. They hang around the park. They don't really do anything, and they just like getting drunk. We love a bit of Gopnik culture. We love that Gopnik culture. Right, let me jump down. Very few people know that. That's interesting. Right. Sean, keep an eye on Michael. He has some interesting comments, to say the least. Right. Where's Michael? Where's Michael's comments? Let me find Michael. I hope everybody's behaving. Right. Well, I can't find any of Michael's comments. Maybe he's gone. Maybe. Oh, Michael. He's saying lol. I can't find any of his comments. Donna Prepper is saying, Guardian, Trump backs away from using the Insurrection Act in Minneapolis after repeating threats to take action amid ICE protests. I mean, have you seen, like, it really is fascinating. Like, it just seems like some people have an absolute mind virus. They really do. Some people have an absolute mind virus. It's like, I think it was, it wasn't Martin Luther King. It was, it was one of the black activists in the 60s. And he was talking about liberals and conservatives, basically. And listen, the Conservative Party is over in the United Kingdom. And who was it? I can't remember who it was. But he was saying, right, okay, you've got two animals here. All right. You've got two animals. You've got the wolf and the fox. Okay. The wolf, he will tell you straight up. He will say, look, I'm going to protect you. But I'm a wolf and I kind of eat meat, but I'll protect you. But I kind of need to eat meat because that's what I do. But I will literally, I will eat like one chicken a day, and that's me. I'll just eat one chicken a day. I am a wolf. That's how I roll. So that would be like the right of politics, right? They come out there, they're straight up. They say, look, this is what we need to do. We need to break a few eggs. And then you get like the liberals, the left. They're like the fox, and they go up to people and like, oh, we're not going to eat you. We're not going to eat any chickens. No, we're going to look after you. We're not going to hurt anyone. We love everyone. Everyone's equal. And they're causing absolute carnage and mayhem, but they don't admit it. And a lot of people are just totally blind to this. Googleinos is saying, Sean, get Michael's comment right. Let me jump up and try and find it. I can't find it. Oh, there we are. Talk about Israel sabotaging the First Amendment in America. I don't know what that's in context to, Michael. Let me try and find your other comments. I don't know what that's in context to, Michael. Right, Michael, I'll try and Google this, what you're just saying, right? Israel sabotaging First Amendment in America. I can't. Okay, I can't find anything on the news. The only thing I can find is from 2 weeks ago. The only thing I can find is from 2 weeks ago. Israeli tech CEO calls on US government to limit First Amendment, take control on social media to prevent lies. That's all I can find. Michael, if you can give me more context, I don't know where you're getting that from. Hot Mess Quins is saying, "Hey all, came over from TikTok. Hello, Hot Mess Quins." I think I'm saying that right. Hot Mess Quins. Right, I'm trying to find Michael. I've read your comment, Michael. I'm trying to find it. I'm trying to go down. Yes, it was Malcolm X. It was Malcolm X who. It was Malcolm X. Right, right, guys. I'm trying to read people's comments here. And I people are saying like, listen, it's really difficult when I'm doing this on the chat because the chat goes up real quick, and I know people like put stuff in the chat, but sometimes I miss it. And then somebody will say, Sean, get so-and-so's comment. And then I'm trying to look up for it, but I don't know how far you want me to look up. And like, I don't purposely mean to like, I don't purposely mean to like miss anybody's comments. I really don't. Sean, I wrote what Michael wrote, Theodore being Leroy. Silly Gallardi. Right, okay. This has all gone crazy. This is all going crazy. Right. Right, hang on a minute. Right, what's going on here? Sean, I wrote Michael and I meant Theodore being Leroy. Silly Gallardi. I don't know. Right, listen, there's all sorts of crazy stuff going on in the chat. The chat's gone wild tonight, guys. Listen, I'm not a bouncer. Right, look, let's jump back on track because we are going down a massive side quest. And my phone's probably going to ring in a couple of minutes. So, hang on. Yeah, so, right, let's get back on track, ladies and gentlemen. The breaking news of the day, right? The breaking news of the day. The United States, in their drive forwards to take control of Greenland is looking like splitting NATO up. Now, I'm saying that this is because I shared with you guys the article before. If the United States do take Greenland, whatever way they take it, it does mean the end of NATO. Why? Well, let's say that they take it peacefully, right? Let's just say they take it peacefully. How does that fare? How do you come back from that? Who has authority there? It can't go on. If they take it by force, which I don't see any scenario where the United States would take Greenland by force. They might land some helicopters or, but I don't see, I don't see anyone getting hurt basically in Greenland. It just makes no sense. There's no sense to do it, right? It makes no sense. And even paying people in Greenland, like even paying them $100,000 each, 500 grand, it's cheap. That is cheap. You're getting a bargain. You're getting a full country, right? You're getting a lot of landmass. That landmass is very strategic. There's a lot of oil there. There's a lot of minerals. So either way, it's either way, I think it's going to happen. Either way, I think NATO is over. So let me. Do you know what? I don't even have time here. Holly is saying, "Oh, cream! I can make clotted cream, but not cream." Right? I don't know. Are we talking about making cream? What's going on? What's going on in this chat, ladies and gentlemen? Lewis Ackers is saying, breaking news: World War III is another day closer. Right? Let me try and get this up. I don't know where these are coming from. Right, let me go back to my opening monologue because you guys are absolutely wild. Listen, just before I go back to my opening monologue again, I don't know if you guys got were on my live stream earlier on. We were talking about a civil war scenario in the United Kingdom, and I just want to bring this back up again because, you know, when people talk about World War III, people forget that World War IV is going to be the war fought on our streets. It's going to be the war fought on our streets. And I did a video a couple of weeks back, and it was kind of a reaction video, a reaction live stream to this guy, David Betts or something. And he was giving his analysis of the body count, basically, of a civil war in the United Kingdom. And when I did that video, I just took for granted what he said. I was like, yeah, I'll listen to him, you know. But then something that he'd not taken into consideration, and I did a whole hour on this earlier on. So if you've not watched that video, go and rewatch it, or at least my opening monologue. One of the things that he didn't take into consideration when he was doing his analysis, and I know he didn't, or because he'd have got different numbers, he didn't take into consideration the density of populations in the United Kingdom. He also didn't take into consideration the diverse community demographics that we have in the United Kingdom, you know, and this density and diverse community and diverse community. These are two massive factors in a civil war. First of all, density. If you've got a lot of people living close together, you've got nowhere to run, right? You know, if you're on mainland Europe, you can run to the next country. If you're in the United States, you can run to another state, and there's a lot more land in the United States. There's a lot more land, a lot more land in the United States. Here in the United Kingdom, if a civil war broke out, you know, it led to rapid escalation of urban warfare, bombing, sieges, blocks of flats being taken, water and sanitation gone, famine, blocked food. We're in a lot worse situation than anywhere ever in the world ever that's been in a civil war. We are. There isn't a worse, like Britain right now it's the worst scenario for a civil war. The only thing that we have the only positive thing that I believe we have that would not drive us into a full-scale catastrophic breakdown is we don't have guns. And again, you know, I don't think guns are a bad thing. I don't. But everybody needs to have them, right? Everybody needs to have them, or nobody should have them. Because in the United States, they have the Second Amendment. And in the Second Amendment, that armed militia is there, obviously, to hold the government to account. And I'm not going to go down that road because I've gone down it for quite a while. So I just want to give you guys my analysis of this. So I think the most likely outcome of a civil war in the United Kingdom would be a prolonged sectarian war. And I'm speculating that this is the most likely. You would see a loss of between 3 to 5% of the population. Now, low end, that's 2.1 million people. And a high rate of that, a high attrition, a high number of those people, that's going to be from sieges, displacement, epidemics, non-battlefield related casualties. And that is higher than the Second World War. That toll is higher than the Second World War. High end, if things went to an absolute catastrophic, total breakdown of society, you know, where you've got, you know, widespread disease, overcrowding, mass executions, foreign meddling, you know, all that sort of stuff. You'll be looking at 5 to 10% of the population just gone. And I spoke about this in my live stream earlier, but I just wanted to bring that back up again because I don't think people understand what that actually means. When I talk about when I say civil war, in my head, that's what I'm seeing. I'm not seeing like 50 guys having a scrap. No, I'm seeing everything. I'm seeing blocked ports. I'm seeing hospitals being overrun. I'm seeing the power not having any power. You know, I'm seeing having no running water. That's what I'm seeing when I see civil war. And it's not good. It really isn't good. It must be avoided at all costs. Right, let me jump back onto the chat, actually. But you know, World War III and World War IV, I think they're going to be fought simultaneously. Helen, can you get the Lucy Connolly treatment if you have... Right, okay. So Lucy Connolly, at the moment, she is looking at jail again. Lucy Connolly is looking at jail again. And she's looking at jail again because she shared a tweet of... I think it was... She's looking at sharing... Sorry, she's looking at jail again for sharing a tweet that had already been shared thousands of times. And the tweet or the video or whatever it was like it was one of these AI generated videos where somebody comes in and takes the United States come in basically and take Keir Starmer, and you know, and I think she said something like, "Is Keir Starmer going to get the Venezuela treatment?" Lisa Janey saying, "Read Googly's post." Right, sorry guys, sorry. Right, let me find Googly's post. Okay, so Google is saying Ukraine and UK to produce 1,000 Octopus interceptor drones per month. They're a waste of money, guys. They really are. They're a waste of money. They won't do anything. They won't have any effect on the battlefield. This is lit right now. This is George Orwell 1984 stuff, right? You know, so you know, and then Google is saying, no way it's going to cost 170 billion annually. That can't be right. That can't be right. No, it definitely doesn't. It definitely, anyway, look. So, no, it can't cost that. It can't. Anyway, so like I gave you guys the example earlier of a conflict you know, a conflict that is a conflict, you know, just producing these things. No, not 10mm ratchets. You know, these things. When you produce things that just destroy, you're just wasting money, because that money should be going back to the public. It should be going back to help people's lives get better. And Googleinos is saying the UK has taken a long-term commitment to military support Ukraine. It involves more than... you're okay. So this is Ukrainian hryvnia, right? So that is like... so you divide that by 40 or maybe 45. So I think one UHA... Sorry, I think 40 UHA is £1. Guys, I don't know what the current exchange rate is. It's maybe like 40 hryvnia. So UHA is the currency in Ukraine. It's hryvnia, and 170. So divide 170 by 40, and that's what the actual cost is in pounds. Sorry, in pounds. And then if you want that one, you times that by 1.3 or whatever it is. Right, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to close this down now for two reasons. One, all right, it's getting wild, it's getting late. And two, I may have to take a phone call very quickly. But listen, the crux of this live stream is if the United States, which I think they will, takes Greenland, then I don't see how NATO can continue. And again, I don't think NATO is worth the paper it's written on anyway. But There we are, guys. Anyway, look, I'm going to have to close this down a little bit early because I normally go for a little bit longer. But listen, like I said, I'm going to close this down now. You guys have been fantastic and beautiful and amazing. And thank you guys for the supers as well. I do appreciate those supers. And they're a lot easier to see, those supers, because they flop up, pop up in another screen. So it's easy to see that. Anyway, guys, I'll be back on tomorrow morning at 10. I bid you all good evening. I bid you all good night. Keep an eye on the news. Crazy things are happening. And remember, it is Friday. Crazy stuff happens on a Friday. And if it does, I'll be back on the live stream and I'll be keeping everybody informed on what's happening. On that bombshell, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share my stuff. I'll see you and I'll bid you good evening.